Hi everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com and I am back with another energetically channeled celebrity video. Now this particular person was so well known that there isn't really anybody who isn't aware of his physical power. And of course he's a Leo, a male Leo. So with a huge stature, like 6'7" they say, born Terry Bollea, known as Hulk Hogan, on August 11th of 1953, 6:13 a.m. Augusta, Georgia. Now, he passed away on July 24th of 2025 of a, quote, heart attack or myocardial infraction, which is basically when the heart beats out of balance and of course you drop out of your body. That's how I see it happening. You drop out of your body. Oh man, it's already starting. It's already starting, I swear. I'm not doing anything and it's doing this. I filmed this like 5 times and it's just going in and out, in and out. So, okay, definitely here. So when I call them in, they come here. And I mean, they just come here. So I felt like doing Hulk Hogan all morning. So I've been focused on it the entire time I'm running and now this is happening. So I wanted to just take a brief look at his chart. I don't know if it's the correct information, but if it is the correct information, it makes perfect sense to me. So we've got a person with Pluto conjuncting the ascendant. We've got Sun, we've got Mars. Yeah, all in Leo and being approximately, if you're going to believe this, a 24-degree Leo rising. So we have Pluto at 22 degrees in the 12th house. We have the Sun at 18 degrees in the 12th house. And we have Mars at 8 degrees in the 12th. And I'm getting really blurry here, so I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to focus it. I'm just going to leave this in. I have to do it like this because otherwise it'll go in and out until I'm driven insane. And you're driven insane. I'm not going to take it out though because I like people to see how our loved ones that have passed on kind of use the electrical energy of the camera. So I don't film perfect videos. I let them tell me who I'm talking about. I look into their stuff and they rule the camera. This is what I figured out at this point and it's okay with me. Sometimes a little blur is good, right? Call it Photoshop. All right, so when we're looking at it, he is a double Leo. Now that Pluto on the ascendant and Pluto conjuncting the Sun and in turn the Sun in conjunction to Mars is very interesting because immediately, first off, that's a psychic person right there. That's a person who lives in the etheric or the spiritual rather than in the physical monetary world. And there would be a split in personality from that as you progress more on this planet. Now, let me tell you before, actually, I'm going to switch. I've been all over the place with this particular reading, and it's very interesting because I can see out of the corner of my eye over here. I'm not even going to look, but I did look. I can see out of the corner of my eye a figure walking by. Now, I don't know who that is. If that's him, if that's somebody else, I don't know, but I just saw it go by like this. So when I was starting to run this morning and listening to the energy around Hulk Hogan, because that's how it happens for me, I get this mindset, I'm going to think of this person and do this. And sometimes people die and I don't do their videos for 5-6 years because I don't feel like it, meaning I don't have the inclination to do it. But immediately I heard the words, they shut me down. And when I looked at it, this will sound really weird. It feels like during his last surgery or one of his last surgeries that either an artery, a vein, or something in the body. Now it was snipped. And the way they showed me this is like snipped and cut and soldered, okay? I don't know why. I don't know I don't know if that's actually what the surgery was to do something like this, but I feel they shut him down. And it was that last surgery, whenever that was, that shut him down. And it starts with a snip and like we cut an artery. It looks like those things you tie off when you shoot up, the ropes. It looks like that inside his body. We snip, we burn it, cauterize it, and we shut it down. They shut me down. And immediately I am all over the place with him. Like there was a succession of things happening in his life that started, and it was a systematic takedown, and he wouldn't play by the rules, meaning I don't fucking want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm too tired. I just don't want to do that. But we want you to do that. But that's part of the deal. Now, what that reminded me of was when an actor goes into a studio and they have like an overall deal, a 5-picture deal, a 10-picture deal. I don't think they do many of those, but an overall deal in the person, the actor, the entertainer signs this overall deal, much like in Vegas, a 2-year performance, you know, 6 shows a week, whatever it is. We need to get our money out of you, and you agreed to do this. But I don't want to do this, but you need to do this. I don't want to do it. I'm never going to get my money. I'm never going to get my money. I will not get my money. They won't allow me to have my money. Now, obviously, Hulk Hogan had money and lived a different life than most of us live, but he didn't get his money. They weren't going to allow it. The money is tainted somehow. The money that he earned is tainted. Not necessarily by him, but tainted. Now, when I look at his chart, and it is super interesting to me, double Leo, it's like they put a hit on Leos in the Mercury retrograde in Leo, right? So he's got a loaded 12th house. A loaded 12th house is something that is very psychic, but also very well aware of the fact that pretty much every person they deal with, and starting with men, Sun, Mars, men, Pluto, controlling men who control me directly from the last past life. I come into this world and I'm directly controlled from the last past life. Now, the memories of this, I feel like he would know this. I feel like he would absolutely know the memories of that past life kind of subconsciously, and be very well aware that there was kind of repercussions playing out that maybe had nothing to do with what he was doing in this lifetime. It was people trying to harness and control his energy. Now, taking a look at him, 6'7", however many pounds, and massively, you know, prominent in physicality, bleached hair, stage presence, charisma. Yeah, you're going to want to control him because he's a moneymaker. Just looking at him. Wrestling, they say it's fake. I don't know if it's fully fake. I mean, it may be set up, planned, scripted, but they definitely were physical people. And he had a Virgo moon. So his Virgo moon, I find that one of the most interesting things in his chart. Why? Because number one, his late degree Leo rising with the moon in the first house, with Virgo predominating his physical appearance. We have the Leo rising look, but the Virgo attitude, the health, the steroids, the physical part, the stature, the career profession, the perfection at achieving what he achieved within his career, all Virgo first house. But he didn't expect what he got from his life. Now, as I've said in many a video and ad nauseum on live streams, whether people and other astrologers agree with it, I don't care. Virgo moon is one of the most psychic moon signs. And the reason I say this is through kind of my own, I guess, education, working with psychic and mediums for decades, for over 4 decades, 40 years. Most of them have a predominance of Virgo in their chart. Rising, moon sign, sun sign, loaded 6th house, because the Virgo can offer the information in a practical manner. He had a Virgo moon. That's immediately tied up psychically tied up, and very focused on the energy around him and seeing it, okay? That's the cat, not him. So very focused on the energy around him on all levels. So able to feel, see, and hear things in a psychic way. The other thing I got, and I hope I don't offend people, but here we go. The other thing I got in reference to him, which is really odd, is there's some sort of a family swap. Yeah, I said it. I was like, is he adopted? What is this energy? I cannot get it clear, but there is some sort of a family swap. So I'm going to start off by saying that when I look at the birth chart and feel the energy, I feel as though his life path was kind of interrupted and he was harvested in this family environment in order to align with the captors. I'm using the word captors because I believe he was born in a energetically captured state, meaning we all think we're free when we're born. And in America, you're born in a first world country. Good thing. Okay. So we don't struggle the same way. However, there was some sort of a spiritual struggle with him in reference to how he was dealing with this incarnation. So there was definitely that. He was handpicked soul-wise to come through at the time that he came through in order to assert certain things energetically to us, the people who watched him or the people that watch wrestling. And under the assumption that it was on his own terms, but it wasn't. So something with his parents is split genetically from him. And I don't know what that means. I really don't. I don't actually know if I'm speaking maybe not physical genetics as in DNA as opposed to spiritual genetics, but I can feel it. So there's some kind of a split, And immediately, I go right over to like bookkeeping, accounting, and like going down a list of things. This is in the month prior to his death. He's asking somebody a question about where my money went. Where did my money go? Where did my money go? Okay, so now I go back to the chart. I see Saturn in the 3rd, and it's in Libra, and it's conjuncting Neptune. That is interesting because that is some chaos. And let me track it back to the chaos that it actually is. The chaos starting in around 2015 when he came out with that crazy racial slur where he said whatever he said. I think, if I remember correctly, it was in reference to his daughter and who she was dating at the time. And that is an overreaching kind of self-centered parent, assuming that his daughter isn't going to live her own life like he lived his own life and pick her own partner the way that she chooses to pick them. He could do it. Why can't she do it? He divorced her mother. Why can't she date who she wants? Right. So anyway, the racial part was probably a big hit to his career and the essence of who he was, because when you hear people say shit like that, you're like, what the actual fuck are they saying, right? However, I will say that pretty much every single one of us, if taped in our own home, would probably sound psychotic at some point or another. Right behind that, and I'm not sure if that was on the tape, the sex tape that was released with him with his friend's wife, and that was a situation like where the guy didn't want to fuck his wife, and so he liked watching his wife fuck other people because he's passive and probably partially gay and liked looking at the dude. That's where I'm going with it. Sorry, true story. I am going that way with it. I'm sorry. I'm just like, yeah, they do whole porn series on that. That's what was going on there. Problem with it is this was the beginning of the takedown of his temperament, his career, his reputation through that. Because a lot of people, I mean, there are people that understand that the husband likes and digs his wife. That's a whole other thing, getting off with another guy and watching the other guy. And we're talking about Hulk Hogan, who has a certain physical power to him. And so I understand, and I don't know if I'm correct with this, but the husband of the woman that he slept with on the tape, or fucked, whatever we're calling it, required the taping of said action. His wife could sleep with whoever she want, but she had to tape it. You should have known that was a setup. You should have known that was a setup. That's what I hear. I should have known that that was a setup because that was used as blackmail to bring him down. A lot of people don't understand that and would assume that he was the perpetrator in that act without understanding the behind the scenes. Now, he did subsequently sue the magazine that released it, and I want to say it was Gawker, if I remember correctly, might not have been, and I believe the magazine went bankrupt, and I'm going to say this, I don't know that he got his money from that. I really don't. I feel like the concerted effort, and I'm going to say this, right around 2006 and onward, there was step by step takedown of Hulk Hogan. Step by step, okay? systematic takedown. One little thing planted here, you won't do this. He started to kind of assert boundaries at that time frame. He started to allow himself to say, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to take 65 gigs a year in order to prove my validation in this community that I'm in. I've already achieved this pinnacle success over here. But for some reason, they didn't want him to stop. And this is where he's directing me. Now, I directed to the T-square in his chart. And again, we're talking about Uranus, Neptune, Chiron, and Saturn. Not to mention the squares to the midheaven, okay? His Leo planets hitting his midheaven. So let's back it up a bit. When somebody is born with Sun in Leo and Leo rising, okay, or a predominance of Leo in the chart, such as Sun rising and Mars, that brings about looking for the approval of Father through learning through the 5th house. Because you see, the chart is, as I've explained, the 1st house, self, the recognition of values, 2nd house, the communication in your environment, 3rd house, the nesting part of the information in the first 3 houses, 4th house. 5th house is your house of children and what you create. What do you create in your life? What have you learned from the first 4 houses, and how do you self-express? So the first point of creative self-expression, and he was a wrestler. I mean, that's a very, it's got to be, he had a lot of surgery, so it's got to be a hugely, actually, whether it's fake or not, because I know people think it's fake, but they're still performing physical acts, whether they're the ones beating up the people or getting beat up. So I don't know how fake it is with the amount of surgeries he had. It seems like it might have been pretty brutal on your physical body, like, and with him being so big, like really pretty brutal. I still can't, as I'm talking about it, his bloodline is different than his parents. That's all I want to say. I can't get that out of my head. I haven't heard that. I don't believe he's adopted. I believe his parents carry the same name, but his bloodline is different. It is different. Okay. So he was given to them, raised, nurtured in order to direct his soul in a particular way. I said it there. I said it. Okay. So, moving on, I'm in a cheeky mood today, but moving on in his chart, when you look at the Saturn Neptune in the 3rd house, this brings in another element. He had so many things going on. What I see is wanting to experience like so many things in tandem. It just one after another, after another. I want to experience this, that, and the other. And oh my God. Okay. So I can feel him in the back of my head. It makes me itchy and I get just tingles in the back of my head. But the energy is so multifaceted with him that we then get into the spiritual conflict that this man had his entire life. And I'm going to tell you something. I know he himself stated that he was Christian, believed in Jesus, and followed a Christian God. I believe that. But he also followed other things and allowed other things to happen early on in his career. And when I'm looking at it, the age of about 23, 24 comes up in my mind. I want to get where I want to get. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to move in this way. And then he would pull back. So he never fully infiltrated his soul into that kind of lifestyle. He tried to remain loyal to the Christian God that he believed in. But understand, the more you pray, the more you focus like that, the more they will send things into your atmosphere to run you off your course so that you run amok. And then they can guilt you, shame you, blackmail you, fuck with you, and basically never give you your money. That's basically, you know, what they will do. He also literally, and I'm going to say this, and this is just common sense, when you take steroids, I know everybody wants, you know, big beefy guys. And when you're 6'7", it's probably hard to keep weight on actually, because your body's so big that you would have to eat so much to gain that kind of muscle. Like really. Okay. Now it's going blurry again, and I'm going to do this because I can see it. I can see it and it drives me crazy. Okay. You would have to eat a lot to gain that kind of weight, muscle mass. It's just, you would. Steroids, it's a great thing. but it's a fake thing. So a steroid or a group of cycling on steroids is stimulating the body's growth patterns at an accelerated state, okay? Probably did human growth hormone and regular weightlifting, cycling, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, steroids, right? That is detrimental if you have physical issues on your body because it speeds it up. So even meth will do that, okay? Adderall will do that. If you have a cancer, if you have something in your blood, a bloodborne illness, any kind of physical issue you have health-wise will be accelerated from the use of steroids. That's kind of just the way it is. It just happens like that. That's it. So when you think of the heart as a muscle, and keep in mind, when you are a tall person, a big person, your heart has to circulate higher to your feet, to your head, oxygen. So they shut me down is the words I heard. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means because nobody came and snipped in your body. So here's what I'm going to say with this. Whatever that surgery was, where they snipped an artery, a vein, cauterized it to keep it tight and not leaking, I have a feeling there was like a blood loss leak in his body after his last surgery. I have no idea when it was. I'm going about 3 years back from his death. And at the same time that all of this is happening, and I'm going back again, probably right around COVID timeframe, he doesn't want to do any more contracts. He will do some public appearances. He will do this, but he's getting very blasé-faire about things. Like, I'm just kind of not wanting to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. There is a warning that comes through. I have a headache on the left side of my head to his first wife. Now, I believe there was 3 wives and God knows how many girlfriends, but 3 wives. My opinion on that is if you didn't do it the first time right or the second time right, what are you doing? Just me. Liz Taylor analogy, like why? But there's always a reason why, right? And I feel like the first wife is, there's warning to her from him. So he wants her, I almost feel like watch her head or the side of her head or something in the left side of her head, because this is where I feel the kind of headache feeling there. And I don't know if that means maybe she's susceptible to something like a stroke or an aneurysm or something along those lines, or she falls and hits her head. But there's something that he wants to warn her about. That's the first wife, the kid's mother, the first wife, okay? He holds, it's so funny, he holds in his chest something that he doesn't want anyone to pry out of his hands. And when I look at it, it's like a key. I don't want you to take that. I don't want you to get that. I feel like he was being either bullied or blackmailed from about COVID time on, and they couldn't get to him. He hid the key, and they were never giving me my money. Now, it's interesting that his daughter, I go to his daughter. It's interesting. Yes, we all know about the public trials of both his children, his daughter with her family, and she has the right to do what she has to do to heal. And it's still sad. It's her father, whether she got along with him or not, or didn't. And I feel like it was okay at the end. I feel like it was okay. They understood each other. I also feel the son, obviously he had his issues with that accident that injured his friend, etc. Inexcusable, but that's on him. He's got to live with that. The father holds his children dear. Like, he loves his children and watches the family. I do feel like he crossed over. I feel like he crossed over, and I'm going to use the word independently and quickly. Quickly. I'm getting the fuck out of here quickly. Like, I feel as he was dying, it's funny, he closed his eyes. So I'm wondering if he was on medication at the end of his life, and the medication maybe helped him sleep, and then the heart stopped, or the medication stopped the heart, and then this, and then they clipped that inside there because they shut me down. They shut me down because I wouldn't follow the business, and I wasn't going to live out the end of the contract. I didn't want an overall deal. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to do that. And these people over here that are looking at the contract, the money, the accounting, he's looking at his accounting. Like, where the fuck did my account, where did this money go? So money was being siphoned from him. Personally, his personal account. And as I started to say, it's very interesting that his daughter says she doesn't accept the inheritance. She's 100% correct. There's a nod from her father about that because the money is tainted on some level and they will never let you have the money. They will never let you have that money. That money will not be had. And his career, he loved his career, but he saw himself at a different stage in his life and he had other goals and other things. And now we're getting blurry again. He had other goals and now I'm completely blurred out again. He had other goals and other thoughts in his head about what he wanted to do. There was a lot of things. He wasn't an easy man to live with. There was, okay, I'm going to say this. I don't know in the wrestling if they really get head injuries and stuff like that. I know he had a lot of surgeries that suggest he was injured in a physical level, but I don't know like about head injuries. He had, I'm going to kind of say, kind of an off-kilter rage disorder. I don't know what else to call it. We'll call it male PMS. We'll do that. You ladies know what I'm saying with that. He literally went from calm logic to anger to depression. So he was a difficult person to live with. There was this very public person that probably had to be upbeat and reasonable and reliable. And then there was the behind the scenes after the energy had been siphoned from the public, meaning giving all your energy to wherever in a public sense. And it was such a split for him. He was split. He was split with how he handled himself. He was split with how he presented himself. He was split with how he presented himself as a man. And how people saw him and how he really was. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. I'm sorry for laughing. I'm just getting an image of it and it strikes me as funny. So in a past life with him, there was kind of an upper echelon lifestyle for him. So like in a kind of coveted group of people, so a coveted life experience, but it was very, very, very controlled. Pluto on the ascendant coming from the 12th house. That's a hell of a prison. That's a gilded golden cage in Leo. Gilded. Here's your gold. Here's your gold toilet seat. Here's your gold cage. Here's your gold rings. Here's everything you want, but you can't come out of the house. That's the past life. However that worked out. I don't really know exactly what that is, but that's what that is. When you come from that kind of past life into this life, you hopefully want to experience every nuance of this ghetto planet. And so I feel like he was being blocked from experiencing what he wanted to experience because they tore him in different directions and then wouldn't give him his money. That's a theme. They took his money from him. So I don't know where that money is. And I can tell you this straight up. He just shakes his head. Okay. So when he crossed over, oh, I'm so happy. When he crossed over, physically, he gained his energy and his insight back immediately. Insight into his life, insight into everything. I will say this. I'm going to say this. I don't know why I'm focused on the first wife. Maybe because she's the mother of his kids. But there's apologies to her. I was very difficult to live with. So I kind of feel like the second and third wives got better versions of him. And I almost feel like he wanted out of this. I feel at the time of his death, he wanted out of the contract. I'm just hearing it that way. So we can look at it as a marriage contract or a business contract or a both contract. And why were you sent to me? Why did this happen in this way? In such a pretty package. So it's all tied up. It's all in a neat bow, tied up contractually. and yet I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't think he wanted to continue to do his lifestyle in that public sense. I mean, obviously, if you're a celebrity, you get used to being in public, and that's something that initially is very exciting for you, your family, your kids. But then there comes a certain point in life, and he was 71. I mean, it's not, I have to say this, I'm going to get yelled at for this, but when people say, oh, you know, they were 70, they died too soon. Okay, really, if you even make it to 40, you're pushing your luck on this planet, okay? Anything after that is just gravy on this planet, all right? Like, a lot of people are not living past 100, so at the very least, when you hit 50 years old, it's probably like 20 more years. And I think statistically for men, it's probably right around 70 to 80, and it's probably a little bit older for women. So he was, I mean, and he was damaged on a physical level from his profession. So that's a lot of pain, like athletes. That's a lot of pain and a lot of injury to live with later on in life and be such a physically powerful, strong human being, and to have that part break down. But on a mental level, I feel like he wanted to focus on different things. And as I started to say in his chart, Saturn conjunct Neptune in the 3rd house. How very, very interesting. Spiritual, yes. Conservative, yes. Spiritually misunderstanding conservative concepts. Spiritually aligning with things that you don't see clearly, Neptune in the 3rd house, communicated because there is a group of people that I connect with and feel close to. So it's kind of interesting. In Libra, I need to find the balance between my traditional views versus my community views versus what I've seen, because I've seen a lot, versus what I'm being told to do in order to do these transactions that I don't want. I keep screaming. I keep hearing I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do it. They shut me down because I didn't want to do it. So he's basically letting me know that he feels, okay, I'm back. I have no idea what I was saying because the camera just shut down. It just like went off. But what I wanted to say is, with his spiritual leaning, I kind of, this is the image that was shown to me, is when you pull a rope in like this and somebody is attached to the rope. So he was being lured in a spiritual sense. And again, when you have guilt and shame about your past actions, whatever they were, minute, some people have guilt and shame over things that are not anything at all. So when you have this guilt and shame over these actions of yours, whatever these actions are, it can put you into a position where you atone for things that aren't fully your things to atone for, and you have such guilt, you may jump into something when it offers you a different way of seeing things. And in this life, he's a birth path 9 and he's a water snake. And I believe we're in the wood snake year. So he's in a snake year and he's a birth path 1. He had to do this journey alone. So in a spiritual sense, he had to cross out of this energy at a particular time to follow his spiritual path on his own. And that's exactly what he did. He is free of this. But there's still a humbled sadness as he crossed over. There's elation to what he saw. But then there's the man who walks down the road on his own and looks to the left and sees where he's been, and looks to the right and sees where he's going, and understands instantly the path that he was on was not the right path. I feel he was trying to get out of something at the end of his life. I literally feel like there was something contractually he was trying to get out of, and I still keep hearing the words, I never got my money. I'm not getting my money. So I know he had a lot of money. I get that. And I think he won like millions in that lawsuit, like 100 million or 140 million, or I don't know, whatever, like a shit ton of money. But does he have that money? Did he get that money? Because I keep hearing, I'm not getting that money. I don't get that money. And here just popped back into my head. I do feel, I'm going to say this. his family, and maybe that's why he's addressing the first wife, because she has the children, because it's not his children and it's not his first wife. It is a male person who is going to take advantage of their relationship with him, meaning, I'm assuming I mean friend, their relationship with him, and he is going to use his name, and he, this is funny, he prefers to be called Terry. Okay, I don't know why, but I just heard that. Because, yeah. Anyway, this friend is going to take advantage of his connection and knowledge and what he has from the past from Terry to utilize it over here on a financial level. So basically, they're going to profit off of his name. He doesn't care. Oh, look at that. It's doing it again. This has just been a nightmare to film. He doesn't, then it's back. He doesn't care, but he does care for his family. And he does care for the way that it's construed. And somebody was in the cookie jar taking his shit. The last few years of his life, and I'm going to go back again before COVID, but in that time frame, COVID and beyond, his direction in his own life changed. So where his focus was, where is he going? It changed. The way that he thought on a spiritual level, it changed. And where did his money go? So this to me, and you know, it really kind of seems like a Ponzi scheme and a Scientology scheme to me. I am wondering if he was aligned somehow with Scientology, or aligned with the way that they think, or if the way that he prayed in his church, if they follow the Scientology patterning, or follow the way that that's done, which is really just kind of a grift in churches where it's like, you know, we'll give you what you want. We come in peace. We use the Bible, but do we really do things the way the Bible wants us to do them? Scientology, whole other can of worms over there. However, it feels like what he was doing and practicing was very similar to the belief system of Scientology, but it worded differently, Christian, and kind of like bringing him into their belief system. I feel like this was problematic for him at the end of his life. Like he recognized something and wanted to stop the contract. I don't know what that means. I feel there will be a fight for his assets, and I feel like his family's going to have a hard time. Obviously, assets don't fucking matter on the other side, because the money in this world is designed to have the peons use the money, meaning us, the hostages. Yes, I'm saying that like that, because when we leave our physical bodies here, we are free of all of those concepts. We don't even eat. We are energetically free. It's different. I don't really understand it, to tell you the truth, but it's much different. So it's what we do here is very controlled, and he was exceptionally controlled. Now, I just wanted to say another thing with his chart. I love the fact that he had Mercury, Venus, and Uranus in the sign of Cancer. The reason that I love this is I love the Mercury in Cancer. Why do I love the Mercury in Cancer? Remember this, because it is a photographic memory. So I'm curious if he had memory issues, because I don't think he did. I really don't. When you have Mercury in Cancer and you have it in the last degrees, it means you're formulating connections to past life thinking into this life, and you remember everything. So it's like a stream of consciousness all the way through. What happens when you're born though here? What happens when you're born here? Our memories are wiped. So when we're born, we are kind of put in a position where that strand of consciousness is kind of ripped and it's like cut in half. He still had it though. So he spoke between two different languages and two different ways of thinking and two different lines of thought. That I actually appreciate. I'm curious if he was an artist of any kind, as in, did he create things artistically, like paint, draw, write? But I mean legit, not just like, oh, I wrote a book, therefore no. I mean, like, did he focus like this? Because that would unlock the memory from the past life into this life. Kind of interesting. And I do hear he was artistic, but not in the way that I think, so I don't know what the hell that means. Okay, hold on a second here. Sorry, I have to say something. This is kind of funny. When I ask how you're artistic, and he's like, my movie making, he's referring to that fucked up film they released on him. Like, he has a sense of humor about it. But it wasn't funny here because it was a blackmail scheme here. So it wasn't funny here, but he's kind of referencing it, and it's funny over there. You're not going to get him. He freed himself. He freed himself. Okay. So his prayer and his thoughts and his prayer was answered. And here's the real issue. This is what I get from his experience in this particular lifetime. Some of his actions were egregious. We're not perfect, none of us. And some of his actions were against his religious mindset. And he got away from those egregious actions. This is the energy I'm feeling from him. So he moved himself in a different way. He moved himself away from it. Like, I'm away from it. I don't have to follow it. I'm away from it. And as he moved away from it, he was continually targeted for moving away from it. So they're not going to let you get away scot-free, and you're not going to live your life in a completely free manner. You will be targeted. You will be, he was targeted from about, it's actually 2011 onward, targeted and tried to be brought down because he wasn't participating in the way that they anticipated and what they expected of him. So for as much as people admired his career, he's kind of stepping back and pushing back from that. Like, I pushed back from that because I didn't have the freedom and I didn't want to complete this contract. I don't even know that he signed it or it was pushed on him, or he didn't pay attention to him, or they just produced it. I'm not sure, but it's like an overall deal at the end of his life. He doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So he just didn't want to do it. The first wife really needs to watch her ass right now. Don't know why, that just comes through in that essence. And I feel like his last marriage, I just feel like he needed out of the contract. Take that as you will, but that's just what I keep hearing. And I feel like they shut him down. They shut him down. That's the first words I heard when I was running this morning. They shut me down. So I guess he decided to follow through with the illness timeline. I mean, the sudden timeline. Now, keep in mind, you're 71. Your body's going to break down. I mean, people do die, and it's going to be heart, lungs, or an accident, or an illness, right? I mean, what else? Or yeah, an accident, heart, lungs, or an illness. You don't really have much choice, right? Got to get off the planet somehow. That's the kind of, okay, that's what he kind of implies he was waiting for. Like, he shows me a watch, looking at the watch, tick-tock. I had to get off the planet. Like, I wondered when it was coming. So he was unsure when he was going to die. We kind of all are, but I feel he means this differently. So I feel like he was waiting for this to happen. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm looking around the corner. I'm waiting. They shut me down. He obviously refused to follow through on a contract. I see something over there. I can't see what it is. Follow through on a contract. And as a result of setting boundaries and saying no, he feels like his time on earth was taken quicker than it should have been. Now, I'm thinking maybe whatever medicine he was on to make his body work. I don't know if I'm talking blood pressure, heart medicine, pacemaker. I don't know what it is, but I feel like maybe that helped contribute to what happened. That's just kind of like how it feels to me. It feels like that. And when I look at the energy around him, you haven't heard the end of me. So I feel like his name is going to be profited off of. Now, that's not particularly, we're still hearing about Elvis and Marilyn Monroe to this day, and it's been decades. Okay, 1979 and 1962. Decades. And they still profit off of their names. Problem with that is he's trying to cut cords from the other side over to this side. He's trying to cut cords and just let it be, let it go. Part of him is really proud of who he was, and part of him knows that he stepped off his path spiritually for some time, for about 14 years, and behaved in a particular way that he stepped back from and tried to atone from, and they shut me down. That's just the way I'm hearing it. All right, you guys, this is my first very different kind of video on the wrestling sensation Hulk Hogan, who passed away again July 24th of 2025. And thank you so much for watching. And once again, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.